Hi everyone, and welcome to Val Talks Pets, the forum for pet parents and enthusiasts alike. Having been in the pet industry for over 10 years now, I'm going to share with you issues and questions that arise as I work with pet parents on a day-to-day basis. I am not a veterinarian, but I do have certifications in canine, feline, small animal, fish and herptile, and avian health and nutrition from the University of California, Davis Extension. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Val Talks Pets. Well, it's that time of year again when the weather is warm or hot and our pets are spending a lot more time outside, going on hikes, visiting parks, or lying in the grass or dirt, as the case may be. We have had a rise in questions about fleas and ticks, which is understandable this time of year, and also about bug repellent. A question about bug repellent for pets is a really good one. Our pets get pestered by pests just the same as we do, and you can see them doing that annoyed snap at flies or biting bugs that land on them. So separate from their flea and tick applications, we have to think about making their outdoor life a bit more comfortable instead of fighting with flying insects. Now, some of the flea and tick applications also repel mosquitoes. So that is something to ask about at your pet specialty store or read up on with regards to the product you are using. But what about those deer flies or horse flies or some flying insect that you have no idea what it is? There are pet bug repellents at pet specialty that you can look into. Generally, these repellents use the repellent oils that we are familiar with in natural bug sprays. Now, I did try one of these that had in it lemon, eucalyptus, pine needle, geranium, and camphor. Unfortunately, I found this particular combination to be very oily and greasy. It stuck to Tundra's fur like I spread cooking oil on him, and he hated it. He was rolling around all over the grass to try and get it off, so I just thought, forget it, and gave him a bath. I have had very good results with a product by Omega Alpha called Herbicoat. Now, Herbicoat is actually an after bath conditioner, but the ingredients are everything we would look for in a natural bug repellent. It has aloe vera, citronella oil, lavender oil, neem oil, and sunflower oil. Together, these oils not only make a nice soft coat, but the bonus is that they are the oils one would use to make up a natural bug repellent. Win-win. I use the spray not only on Tundra, but myself as well. The most important thing to remember is that human bug spray with DEET is seriously dangerous to pets. And the other ingredient, picaridin, does not have enough information, so err on the side of caution with this. If you have used spray with these ingredients, do not let your pet lick you and do not use it on them. If you have the inclination to make up your own repellent, look to lavender, lemon balm, or rosemary. I would suggest speaking to a holistic veterinarian or holistic practitioner about natural bug sprays for pets to make sure you get it right. Or go to your health food store and ask if they have a line of natural pet bug sprays. Take a good look at the ingredients as well and test it on yourself to make sure it isn't what I ran into and you end up spraying an oily mess on your pet. Okay, so as far as fleas, ticks, and worms go, I'm replaying this episode that will give you the lowdown on everything to do with pests. You can also review the interviews with Teresa Gilligan and Wendy Patrick with regards to natural wormers and flea and tick treatments. As I discussed with both of these practitioners, I know that when I gave Tundra his flea and tick treatment, he did not feel well, and I just had this exact conversation with a pet parent who related the same unwell feeling in their pet after treatment. We do have to acknowledge that we are giving them an insecticide, so listen to your pet's body language, and if going the commercial route for flea, tick, and worm treatment is not in the best interest of your pet, I have discussed a natural wormer on my episode, and Teresa and Wendy, through their companies Nietzsche and Finessium, respectively, offer some alternatives for commercial flea, tick, and wormers. So, without any further ado, it's time for my episode on fleas, ticks, and worms. Oh my! Welcome to this episode of Val Talks Pets. It's that time of year when we need to address fleas, ticks, worms, and other parasites and nasty things dogs and cats can get. I have been exceptionally lucky in that not one of my pets, since I left the big city more than 20 years ago, has ever had fleas. And I can't say that I've been particularly proactive in the past with flea prevention. Again, as I said, I've been very lucky. But times are changing with regards to climate, and that has a lot to do with the flea and tick cycles. Where I live, we used to have a pretty deep freeze during winter with significant snow. As things have been changing with climate, our winters have not been quite as snowy, and the real dip in temperatures has not lasted more than a few days before the temperature goes back up. All of this has changed the way fleas and ticks survive and how they end up on our pets. Last year, my dog had 4 ticks. One cat had 2, and my senior cat had 1. I have never, ever had ticks on my animals. Never. So that is quite a change. So let's start with fleas. Ugh, fleas are horrible. They crawl on our pets, feed off their blood, bite us, live in our carpets, couches, and baseboards, and generally make everything nasty. Not to mention, they can get out of hand very fast, and before you know it, there is an infestation. If the infestation is bad enough, you will actually see fleas jumping, and even worse, jumping on you as they smell you as dinner. So what can we do? Well, let me start with prevention, and then I'll move to how to get rid of them. Depending on where you live, you may have to deal with fleas all round. That means that routinely you are using some kind of flea prevention. If you live where there is significant winter, many people discontinue flea treatment throughout the cold months. If that is the case, by March, it is suggested that you start your pet back on their flea prevention. As soon as the temperature rises and the snow starts to melt away, the fleas become active. Here are some numbers that will probably make you cringe. In as little as 15 days, the flea life cycle is completed. In 30 days, 10 fleas can multiply into thousands of fleas. Say a live flea comes into your house on your pet. This is what will happen. The flea will feed off your pet or get what they call a blood meal. The blood meal will stimulate egg laying, which the female does on your pet. Here's where it gets even ickier. The eggs do not stick to the pet's skin or hair, so the eggs actually fall off, contaminating your floors, carpets, bedding, couch, etc. Then the eggs become larvae, which uses their chewing mouth part to settle deeper into the surface. Then the larva becomes a pupa, and at this point, no treatment can control the pupa because it has a cocoon that shields it. Guess what is next? Full-blown live flea. This is so disgusting, so the best thing to do is prevent any fleas from coming in, and if they do, you need to treat your house immediately. Starting with the prevention for your pet, there are some choices: collars, topicals, and ingestibles. So let's start with collars. Some collars emit a gas that repels fleas and ticks. Some have an active ingredient that seeps into the pet's fat layer and uses the pet's natural skin oils to distribute the ingredient. When a flea or tick bites the pest dies on contact. Flea collars can be great for ticks and also for extra protection if your pet is going outside or on a hike into the forest. You can put the collar on for the activity and then remove it and store in a baggie for the next trip. This is a great option to doubly protect your pet if they are on another monthly flea and tick prevention. Another great use for flea collars is to put one in your vacuum if you have been dealing with a flea infestation. Collars can actually be a bit more effective for ticks because ticks like the soft area around a pet's ears or neck, and this is right where the collar fits. This does mean, however, that the hindquarters are exposed and not protected. 2 of the ticks on my dog last year were on his back and his stomach. So, final outcome on collars is that they can be a great supplemental prevention. They are cheaper than other treatments, but you need to get a good quality flea collar and be mindful of the ingredients and children being around the collar. Okay, topicals or drops are the little vials you get and you break one and squeeze the liquid, usually between the pet's shoulder blades. Some will have you place drops one by one down the pet's back. Generally, they come in 4-month and 6-month supplies. You would use one application a month. Topicals range in price, and some do only fleas, and others do flea, ticks, and mosquitoes. Now that's a nice perk. They range in price, and some are quite expensive. Topicals or drops are administered down into the pet's skin, and then the active ingredient seeps into skin and then becomes part of the system that provides oils to their skin and fur. When the pest bites the pet, they die. Some of the insecticide will be in every drop of their skin oil. This will usually be within a short time of dosing your pet. Don't be alarmed if you see active fleas after dosing if there already are fleas on your pet. The insecticide affects the fleas' bodies, so the fleas become hyperactive as they begin to die. Some topicals will have a growth inhibitor as well. Seeing as the embryos are almost impervious, this growth inhibitor will prevent them from maturing. The benefit of topicals are that they are full-bodied protection and only one application per month is needed. The most important thing about topicals is that you must make sure you are getting the correct dosage for the size of your dog. And dog applications cannot be used on a cat. Make sure you know your pet's weight and read the box carefully and ask your pet professional for the correct product. Okay, next is ingestibles. What is going on with these? Well, these are those little chewables or pills that you give to the dog or the cat to eat. The insecticide is delivered in the same way as a topical in that the pet has to be bitten and then the pest dies. It depends on the active ingredient of the chewable how the flea cycle is dealt with. Some kill adult fleas when they bite, and some do not, but attack the larva so they cannot mature. Again, read the information on the product and ask your pet professional for advice. Other options for combating fleas in the form of flea powder, flea spray, and flea shampoo. All of these really are for when you are already battling fleas, not as prevention. The mistake people often make is not reading the instructions. One of the important parts of using flea shampoo is that you have to leave it on for at least 7 to 10 minutes in some cases. When advising people on this type of flea treatment, I always refer them to this direction and tell them to get a toy or something to chew to keep the pet occupied while they wait drenched in soap. You can just imagine how well this goes down when the bathing subject is a cat. The thing to remember is that these products, all of them, are delivering an insecticide. This is why it is important to wash your hands when dealing with any of these products and be aware of the interaction with the pet and children. Flea collars are an ongoing issue with this because they're wearing them, unless you're using it for the short term and you're taking it off. That's fine. Topicals and ingestibles, you need to be careful within the first 24 hours for sure. Also, remember that size of pet is important when getting the correct dose, and again, never give a cat-dog treatment or vice versa. Now, here's another big thing about flea treatments. When you read the box for either dog or cat treatments,
you will notice that they say you cannot use the product for a kitten under 12 weeks or a puppy under 6 months. These rules do vary product to product, but make sure you read what the restriction is. We know that kittens are often acquired from a barn or being strays, so kittens having fleas is actually fairly common. Puppies coming from a proper shelter should not have fleas, and purchasing a puppy from a breeder or someone selling pups, again, should not have fleas. If you are picking up a puppy from someone selling puppies, check immediately and thoroughly for fleas or evidence of fleas, which is the black pepper-like dots you see near their skin. That's the flea dirt left behind from the blood meal. Personally, there is no way I would hand over money to someone for a puppy if it had fleas or any evidence of fleas. This, to me, would just be an indicator of the poor care the pup had been receiving. I'll take the puppy and immediately get it treated, but I wouldn't pay for a puppy with fleas. Okay, so off topic a bit. What do you do when you have a kitten or puppy under the age for flea treatment and they have fleas? Believe it or not, here is the trick. There is a dish soap on the market known for cleaning wildlife that has been covered in oil. The reason this product works is due to its very thick nature and some of the degreaser properties. It's this thickness that becomes our flea fighter. Bathe the kitten or puppy in this particular dish soap, leaving the suds on the pet for at least 5 to 7 minutes, and then rinse. Keep a bowl of water nearby in case live fleas come up to the surface, essentially running away from the soap. Pick them off and put them in the bowl of water to drown them. The soap is suffocating the fleas. That's how this works. It's the only thing you can do if there is a flea infestation on a kitten or puppy under the age the products you have chosen will allow. Prevention is difficult when they are underage, so to speak, so be diligent. You can also ask your veterinarian for advice as well. All right, now let's deal with ticks. Ticks are serious. They can carry Lyme disease, and that is not something you want, nor do you want your pet to contract. First line of defense is to have the pet on a tick prevention regimen. The upside here is that you can get your flea and tick prevention together. So what happens when a tick latches onto your pet? So when the tick first jumps onto your pet, they can be as small as a pinhead and extremely hard to see. Once they penetrate the skin and start to feed on the pet's blood, they get bigger or become engorged. At its largest, a tick could even get to the size of a grape. We're never going to let that happen. I think the largest I've seen on my dog was about the size of a dried red lentil. So not very big, but big enough that when we ran our fingers through his fur, we felt that bump. When you feel that little bump, separate the fur and see if you have a tick. Now here's the important part. A tick needs at least 24 hours, more likely 48 hours, to transmit any diseases. So if you check your pet diligently and get the tick removed right away, you have drastically reduced your pet's chances of getting a tick-borne illness. So don't try any home remedies to get the tick to back out. It won't. Remove it. So how do you do that? I keep a tick key handy, but you can do this with a pair of fine-tipped tweezers. Grip the tick as close to the skin as possible, or use your key to slide it between the tick and the skin. Pull straight up. Now, I can tell you that my husband and I, in removing the ticks last year, found that these little buggers hold on pretty tight. You have to give a pretty good pull, and one removal had our dog give a little yelp. So be prepared for that. Now, I know that the thing everyone is scared about is getting the head, or actually what is the mouth parts that have attached to the skin. If this does get left behind, don't worry too much. because if the pet has been on the prevention medication, that mouth part will dry up and fall out. Basically, the tick will ingest the blood and then start to quickly die. It's like they get on the host, dig in, and then go, uh-oh, this is not good, but they can't back out. So they just hang on and die. So when you find a tick on your dog or cat that has had medication, most likely the tick sucked up enough blood to get the insecticide and then died. So we are essentially removing the dead tick, but not always. So be prepared to see those little legs do a bit of a dance when you remove it. Ugh. It's possible, without detection, they would eventually shrivel up and fall off, but we want them off as soon as possible to prevent any chance of that infected saliva from getting into your pet's bloodstream. Once you have removed the tick, it's good practice to wash the area with warm soapy water or spray a pet antiseptic on the area. It's possible there may be a bit of swelling, but keep an eye on it as that usually goes down within a few hours. What's really important to watch for is that telltale bullseye ring around the area where the tick has embedded. I would be making a trip to the vet if I saw that. Other things to watch for are swelling, pain, fever, lack of appetite, and at worst, seizures. These symptoms could indicate a tick bite you were not able to catch and the tick was infected. Head to your vet right away. There is also a rare paralysis tick, but not so rare in Australia, for example. This tick will bite the pet, and then the pet will experience a horrible paralysis that requires emergency vet care. So make sure you know what potential tick-borne illnesses are prevalent in your community. All right, let's recap a bit because that is a lot of information. Flea and tick medication is a must. Choose either a topical drop or a chewable or pill. Supplement with a flea collar when being active outside, and make sure that collar is for fleas and ticks. Make sure you get the right dose based on size. Remember, very young kittens and puppies cannot take many medications. Dog and cat medication is not transferable. Check your pet frequently for ticks and remove right away. Wash the area and keep an eye out for any symptoms that require medical care. All right, well, now that we are doing our very best to prevent any infestations, what do we do if we already have a flea infestation? I hate to tell you this, but this is a very difficult road. Be prepared to spend a fair bit of money and to be rather frustrated. You will need to wash whatever you can in hot water. You will need to get a proper flea spray for premises for your house. So make sure you get flea premise spray, not the spray for the pet. You will need to spray your baseboards, cracks and crevices, couches, bedding, and don't make the mistake that many people make, which is spraying everything and then vacuuming. Don't. Put a flea collar in your vacuum. Do a good vacuum. Empty the bag or canister outside. Spray. Leave it. Do not vacuum for several days. When you do, spray again. Bathe the pets in flea shampoo. Give them their treatment. And repeat the house thing again and again until you get this under control. So now you can see why it's really important to prevent instead of deal with an infestation. Okay, so we have covered fleas and ticks, so let's talk about parasites or worms. Now, some people do a routine worming of their pets. I can see that depending on where you live and the activities of your pets. If your cat goes outside and routinely brings you presents of mice, chipmunks, etc., and has been eating them, you should routinely worm your cat. Rodents will definitely pass worms onto your cat if they are eating them. Dogs seem to get worms a bit intermittently. Puppies always need to be wormed, as do kittens. Kittens and puppies can pick up worms in utero if the mother is a carrier. So that means stray cats and feral cats are particularly susceptible to pass on worms to their kittens. Puppies are not always born with worms, but most are. When the mother is pregnant, her rising progesterone levels cause immature worm larvae in her muscles to awaken and swim right through the uterine wall, then on into the puppy before it is even born. By 2 or 3 weeks of age, puppies are shedding worm eggs and infecting each other. The worms can be passed through the milk as well. It is recommended that puppies be wormed every 2 weeks until they are 12 weeks, and the same goes for kittens. So the best thing to do is to use a broad-spectrum wormer. This is a wormer that will treat the most common worms, which are roundworms, hookworms, whipworms, and tapeworms. Now, only 2 of these types of worms can be seen in the stool with the naked eye. Those are roundworms and tapeworms. So roundworms look like threads of spaghetti, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches long when you see them. Tapeworms look like pieces of rice coming from the pet's bum, and then when they sit, the little piece is left behind and it kind of wiggles a bit and then it dies. That is the pieces of the tapeworm being sloughed off as it grows. I know, so disgusting. The other 2 worms are living and attaching in the small and or large intestine, so this is why you do not see them. All right, so medication. At one time, it was normal for Pet Specialty to sell worming medication. However, in Canada, these were delisted and so no longer are available in retail. A trip to the vet is necessary if worms are present. The frustration here is from the people who like to worm routinely as a prevention. These customers do not want to go to the vet and pay for a visit and medication and often be told to bring a fecal sample. Many parents have explored alternative or holistic worming products for this reason. Some of these are actually quite effective, but unfortunately, many of these were also delisted from retail. Now, some companies have gone through the processes of registration, etc., and have been able to get their natural wormers back on the retail market. These products will vary from store to store. So if you are able to find a natural wormer, read the box and see what worms it can address. Sometimes tapeworms are not on the list because tapeworms can be very difficult to get rid of. Personally, if I was dealing with a tapeworm, I would go to the vet for the pill. It is only 1 pill and very inexpensive, I guess, depending on your veterinarian. And if you are seeing those grains of rice type looking pieces, your pet has a tapeworm. There's no need to test poop for this. So I have found my vet to be pretty amicable in the past to let me just have the pill. I think why vets want the fecal sample is so that they may test for whip and hookworms that you cannot see. Usually if a pet has a tapeworm, it's quite possible they have other worms as well. So the vet is just being cautious. Anyway, if you are thinking of doing a routine type worming, there is one product called diatomaceous earth that can be very helpful. Diatomaceous earth is a powder of a naturally occurring freshwater sediment. It has microscopic remains of shells and prehistoric diatoms, which is the most common form of phytoplankton. It is very important to make sure you get food-grade diatomaceous earth. So how does it work? For intestinal parasites, the microscopic shell particles basically slice up the parasite. Then the remains are just pooped out. So here's the thing about diatomaceous earth. It works on anything with an exoskeleton, meaning that Either internally or externally, it can work on parasites and can help control fleas and ticks, and you can use it in your garden on ants, slugs, etc. The microscopic shells and diatoms are like little shards of glass, so they cut into the outer shell of the pest, and then they dehydrate and die. This is definitely an option for routine worming, and you just follow the directions on the container as to how much you put into your pet's food and for how long. One time, I caught my dog drinking from a bucket of water outside that had accumulated rainwater. And before I knew it, it had little bugs swimming in it, and this is what he was drinking. I immediately started him on diatomaceous earth for a regimen, just in case. Okay, so bottom line on wormers. It's almost impossible to get wormers in retail. There are some options for natural wormers, but you will have to read what the products actually address. Diatomaceous earth is a good option, but make sure it is food grade. Very important. Don't cheap out on this. And one other thing that has cropped up. In spring, you might find little red dots on your pet's stomach. My dog gets these, and they seem to be pretty itchy, if not a bit sore. Well, guess what? Black fly bites. Yep, these incredibly annoying little tiny flies also get to our pets. Use a nice soothing pet ointment until the initial bite reaction goes down. I like to use a very natural ointment that has witch hazel in it because that will help with the itch. Well, I hope this has helped as we move into bug season. Remember, your best defense is to protect your pet. So, that brings me to my pet peeve section. This part is reserved solely for opinion and a bit of event. I think my biggest pet peeve here is about the bugs themselves. I hate fleas and I hate ticks. I know they are just trying to survive in our ecosystem, but man, can they be annoying and also cause some serious illness. This is why it is frustrating when someone comes in and they say they have fleas and they are getting bit, and as well as the pet, and they walk away with a flea collar thinking this will do the trick, despite being told that this will not deal with the infestation and that they're just asking for trouble. I know the cost can add up to deal with an infestation, but what are your choices here? Well, the biggest choice here is to think ahead and be prepared. Protect your pet. Do some reading and ask questions because, as I say, knowing is caring. Thank you for listening to Val Talks Pets. Remember to subscribe to make sure you don't miss any new topics, and also email me at val@valtalkspets.com with topics you think would be of interest to other listeners or any questions you may have. Also, visit my website at valtalkspets.com.